I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audit's here. Everybody get a chance to see it. It's here.
Yes, we need the bills and final paid.
Go to second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to start with our public hearing on the preliminary budget. Please keep it brief and please keep your comments directed at the board. So if I raise a hand, who would like to speak? Everybody at once? Yes.
Are we going to have further negotiations?
Yes.
Okay. Like, see, you got us in for 3%.
No, that was a
budgetary figure.
yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
We'll see. No. Oh, yep.
Is there a tax increase?
No. So with this particular budget, there'll be no tax increase this year. We have the intention of putting some money in the reserve funds that we replaced from what we used last year. And what's left over, we were going to put into various savings accounts with different maturity dates. Hopefully we get a little bit of interest off it, even though interest rates aren't that high, but that's the plan. We're financially in much better shape this year than last year. Sales tax is much higher than it was the previous year. COVID was really a tough year for this town, but we're in better shape this year. And I thank the board for all their hard work and all the different committees and workers here that made it a good year. Seeing no one for the public hearing, I'll move on to the public comment period. Now, before I allow people, same rules, please be courteous. Let's not talk back and forth with each other. Please keep it at the board. Remember, we're all neighbors here. Yeah, and I will have to cut you off if you go too long. Go ahead.
Philip Rock, I'm not from the States, town of Poestenkill. I just wanted to take the liberty to request time to speak when the agenda item on the PFOA comes up, rather than take the time now with your permission.
Okay, but we'd set a public hearing but what's that?
I'm just reading here, the public comment period says you can request.
Well, you can have we'll reopen it at the end of our business, but it's not a public hearing for.
Okay, that's fine.
You can go now or you can go later. It's okay.
There's a hearing for this later?
There is no hearing. No hearing.
Okay, then I'll make my comment now. This is the only time. I wanted to express my support for Councilman Walber's resolution that he's going to ask for a vote tonight on the town paying for a test for the PFOAs within a reasonable space. I'm not sure what the distance is. I have one caveat. I would like to get assurances that the county or the state will be reimbursing the town. They don't want it coming out of the town taxpayers. Yes, we're all taxpayers at the county level too, but I hope there's some assurances, as we were given at our last unofficial meeting at the VFWs by a county legislator. As the county said that they would be paying for tests within half a mile of Algonquin Middle School. And I haven't seen that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Yep. Yep, please.
My name is Eric Blossenheim. I've lived at 25 Redwood Road in Poestenkill for 28 years. My property is just about a mile from the Algonquin property. I'm retired now, but 35 years as a software developer, 28 of that in geographic information systems, working in Troy, North Haven, at the same levels. My purpose tonight is to try to impress on the town board how important it is that you be our voice with the county in the state as we try to uncover the full story of PFA chemicals in our water. I want to emphasize at the start that while I have many complaints with the state and county, I do not think anyone is being evil or malicious. What we have is people doing their job the way they think it should be done in a situation that I don't think they know how to handle. While the experience in our county with Hoosick Falls and Petersburg was important, this is different. There's no obvious source. The levels are much lower. I attended the Meet the Candidate session this past Monday, held at the VFW Hall, and PFAs were a big part of the meeting, but it left me feeling very deflated about the chances of something meaningful getting done. Just after the meeting, Councilman Woolver sent an email which included a link to the WTN story about our town and the PFAs and a short interview with him and County Public Health Director Mary Fran Tunis, which crystallized my thoughts. Mr. Tunis defended the county as one would expect and stated how transparent the county was being. Transparency is a buzzword these days, so I should give her some slack, but it is just not true. What I believe Ms. Tunis was saying is that the county was not hiding anything or lying. I believe that too. But transparency requires real information clearly communicated, which definitely has not happened. Mr. Tunis started off by saying the county was approaching well testing in, quote, a very scientific manner. We have reason for testing the wells we are testing, unquote. This idea was also pushed by McLaughlin the other night when he stated that he had asked his team why they could not test more properties, but he said it was shot down by experts. It was also clearly implied by Rich Elder, the county environmental director, who has provided some good information to me in email. But anyone who has followed the history of PFAs, and especially in this county, should realize that this is not useful information. Why can't anyone explain to us what the scientific manner is? What information about a well adds it to the list? What throws it out? Give some examples to us. Explain, well, we looked at these properties near Algonquin for this depth, this rock, there's things that I don't know the details of. Explain it to us. We're not scientists, but we can understand. The county and state should also want this, as without it, misinformation and rumor will win with disastrous results. I really hope the town board can help us here by impressing on the county that we have to have much more information. Maybe after explaining to the citizens, they may discover something they did not know. Ms. Tunis mentioned that tests take 2 weeks, but this is misleading. It may only take 2 weeks for the lab process. The time it takes for the county to analyze and choose properties and letters to owners, collect responses, collect samples, get results, and finally make those results public, because the results go to the homeowners first, is much more than 2 weeks. And if this continues, we could be talking months or even a year, especially if results demand more and more testing. Then there is the state. I received in the mail, I think many people did, a document from the DEC and DOH entitled, quote, protecting Poestenkill drinking water and investigating emerging contaminants. While there's useful information in the document, I am really truly astounded by the poor quality of communication. The purpose was to, quote, share progress on the agency's efforts to ensure the protection of drinking water in Poestenkill and ongoing efforts to identify potential sources of contamination, specifically PFOA, at levels slightly above the New York State's maximum contaminant level, MCL, standards for public drinking water, unquote. That's that. Under the subheading New York's stringent drinking water standard, it states that the maximum contaminant levels were developed for public water supplies, but are also used as, quote, guidance when evaluating private well data, unquote. Then goes on to say the state standards are much lower than the current federal drinking level of 70 parts per trillion, and the state MCL maximum contaminant levels are 10 for both those chemicals, which it calls emerging contaminants. In my opinion, this is truly gobbledygook as a public document meant to inform and possibly calm the citizenry. Who uses a phrase like maximum contaminant level but does not expect heightened concern from citizens when tests show above this level? Human nature, even slightly. What really does an abundance of caution mean when it is above the maximum? What are we to understand about guidance for private wells? It does not say at all. What are emerging contaminants? It does not say. I looked it up, but we shouldn't have to. New York State levels are pretty low, but they are not the lowest in the country anymore. Michigan and California are both low. A quick aside on parts per trillion. I've heard a number of people noting how small 10 parts per trillion is. However, we would be having the same exact conversation if the numbers were 70, 700 parts per billion, parts per million. There's absolutely nothing to be gained by talking how small this is, as we can't conceive any of these levels. The state created a maximum contaminant level, 10 parts per trillion, supposedly for good reasons, and that's all we can go by. There are no studies that I know of about the long-term effects of low levels of PFAS, and it is possible that whatever it is at Algonquin has been there for 40 years. The document, though, says, quote, DOH determined that the concentration of PFAS detected in this community thus far do not pose a significant health risk and are well below levels of PFOA and PFOS associated with health effects. But when MCLs are exceeded, carbon filtration is immediately supplied to those properties, which I assume is for no good reason that the harm is down if it's completely fake. The state document then outlines some work on sources of contamination, which is really good to hear and good. Samples from the old landfills listed, as well as a test at a well at Algonquin. All good, but while there is a promise of communications, there are no specifics. I'm requesting the town board insist that the county or state start explaining and have regular updates as to the progress. When are the tests being done? Why does it take 2 weeks to test the well, but 2 months at the landfill? When is the test well being drilled? How long will it take? When will we know if other sites are being tested? I've also heard nothing about plans based on possible results. What if the next 10 wells all test above 10? What if none do? What if some do? We have no idea what to expect. State and county should be holding webinars or on-site sessions on all these topics. Note that just this week, information was released from new efforts on the EPA on PFAS on all these chemicals. This is becoming a hot topic, and we have to be prepared. The ballgame may completely change. We are also on the way to being lumped in with Petersburg and Hoosick Falls as one of those communities with bad water. We must take this seriously. I'm requesting the town board demand much better from the county and state. The community just wants good information and to know if their water is safe to drink, and to see that the work that may need to be done is done. And you are our local representatives, the only one of the partners that I can address. 55 years ago, I cleaned out asbestos firebrick from oil burner fireboxes in New York City and cleaned my filthy hands with benzene. We know better now.
Thank you. Go ahead, Judy.
Good evening, and thanks for meeting in a bigger room. I appreciate it. That other room has been a little tight. My name is Judith Bang. I've lived in Poestenkill for 36 years, so it feels like yesterday, just arriving. And I know a lot about PFOA and environmental protection. I served as Deputy Secretary for the Environment in the New York Governor's Office. And I also served as Regional Administrator at the Environmental Protection Agency when the Hoosick Falls issue and the Petersburg issue first emerged. Drinking even low levels of PFOA is a very serious health risk. And I know we've heard in the past that PFOAs, PFAS chemicals are everywhere. And sadly, it's true. It's in consumer products, it's in socks, it's in many different items. But the dominant way we get PFOA in our bodies is through drinking water. We know more about PFOA than virtually any other chemical, and it's because many years ago, there was a lawsuit against DuPont for their plants in Ohio and West Virginia. They actually manufactured PFOA there. And rather than the typical long, drawn out fight over lawsuits, the company and the lawyer representing the affected people decided to do something different. They said, let's convene independent scientific experts, medical experts, get them in a room and see if they can agree, are there adverse health effects from drinking water with PFOA in it? And if there was, then DuPont would instantly help compensate people who were injured and wouldn't challenge the decision. It was a smart move because it reduced all sorts of money to lawyers. It compressed the time for this to be responded to. So this study with independent experts went on for years, and both the maker of the chemical and the citizens' lawyers all agreed that if you drink water with PFOA in it, you are more likely to get kidney cancer, testicular cancer, ulcerative colitis, thyroid disease, pregnancy-induced hypertension, and high cholesterol. Since that study was made public, there are many other adverse health effects, but this study is the gold standard, and the maker of PFOA does not dispute. This chemical is so toxic that in 2006, the big 8 companies that make it decided to voluntarily take it off the market. That rarely happens because they were going to lose a lot of money. And these were companies like DuPont, BASF, 3M. This brings us to Poestenkill. There has not been enough testing of people's wells. In the first round of testing, PFOA showed up 38%, not always violating the state drinking water standard of 10 parts per trillion. But if I was drinking the water, or my kids or grandkids were, I would like 0 PFOA in my drinking water. The second limited round of testing, PFOA showed up 71% of the time. And at one point, we were told that 28 more wells would be tested, but I don't think that's happened. So unfortunately, I could talk to you for hours about this, but I won't. But I want to ask you to do 3 very specific things. One is you need to urge the state agencies to find the source of PFOA. The only reason why the testing is happening around Algonquin School is because there was a new state health department rule that required schools that are in wells to test their water. If that wasn't in effect, we probably would never know about this. So we need to find the source. And I worked at EPA for over 8 years. Standard operating procedure, when you hear about a source of contamination, is you go out and you punch some sampling wells. It's not hard to do. Environmental agencies do this all the time. And I'm deeply troubled that our state agencies, the Department of Environmental Conservation and the Department of Health, haven't done that. We need you as advocates for people who live here to insist that that happen and that it happens soon. Second, I strongly support free testing for people who have a concern, because not everyone can afford $350 to get their well tested. I support Eric Walborler's, sorry about your last name. I support his proposal, if it's officially on the table, I hope it is, to offer free testing to people. One person contacted me recently who had their well tested. It did not exceed 10 parts per trillion, but the county health department found a different PFAS chemical in his drinking water or her drinking water, and the chemical is a substitute for PFOA. So what this tells me is there are probably sources, maybe not in Poestenkill, maybe in a neighboring town, because this moves really quickly through groundwater. There's one or more sources that was using PFOA, then they couldn't get it when it was phased out after that 2006 agreement, and they shifted to a substitute. That may rule out the town landfill, but it rules in other places. And while the testing is happening over near Algonquin, the source could be a distance away. And I just don't understand why the state agencies are not aggressively going out looking after the source. My final point is I really want to commend Bob Burnett for his access to information, sharing it with the public, and reminding people that we have a public water source here in Poestenkill that's not far from Algonquin School. My personal view is that the school, while certainly should go ahead and install filtration, They should also seriously consider connecting to public water, which I think is only a half a mile from the school location, and that could also be an opportunity for private residences. That's probably not going to happen until we find the source and get more testing done. We are, almost 11 months into this. This is not moving quickly enough, and I think the thing that can change it is if you, as elected officials, can join the community of concerned citizens and really push the agencies to do better. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good evening, all. My name is Paula Heil. I live adjacent to Algonquin. My well can be measured in feet, the school's well. My well, fortunately, measured this time around, this round of December, below drinking water, below 10 parts per trillion. But I still have been drinking poisoned water. I did not ask for it. Somebody trespassed their chemicals into my drinking water. I feel violated, that the sanctity and safety of my home has been pulled from me. Now I know I've been drinking contaminated water, and I can drink bottled water and take steps. One of the things tonight that I just need to emphasize is that the community members who did not have their wells tested need reassurance that their wells are not contaminated. We need to test people who need to know because they need to know. It's very difficult at night to make dinner. I love making pasta. I grow tomatoes. I have stock. Do I want to make pasta in contaminated water? Or am I going to cost me $3 or $4 to boil a pot of water using bottled water? The safety of my home has been stolen from me. Now, we can mitigate it, we can treat it, but it does not change the fact that myself, my neighbors, people down the street have been drinking poisoned water. The thing that really hurts too is we don't know how long. I don't know if I'm at the beginning of the plume, I don't know if I'm at the leading edge or the lee edge. Which end of the plume am I at? Because I can look through the woods and see contamination rising from my home, see where the numbers are going. Is it coming towards me? Or did I already drink all that stuff and it's leaving? We don't know because we're not tracking groundwater flow. We have no idea where it came from. We don't know the sources. So tonight, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but what we need is we need reassurance. The public, the homeowners, the school, everybody needs reassurance that the water they're drinking today is safe for them. And that's why we need to have the testing done. Why we need to push the state, why we need to push the county. We need to have them test our water just so we can sleep at night. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. My name is Rob Hayes. I actually live in Albany, but I'm the director of clean water for a nonprofit organization called Environmental Advocates in New York. We've been working really closely with Eric and with a number of community members to kind of help them respond and navigate the contamination. So really just kind of wanted to make this statement to say, one, our organization is happy to be a resource to the town board as well and to all of you. In case there are any questions about this pollution and how to navigate it. But also wanted to make kind of two quick points and echo what some of the other speakers said. The first is that I and my organization have worked a lot with communities that have been impacted by PFAS across the state. We've worked with folks in Hoosick Falls and Newburgh, down in Rockland County, out in Seneca Lake. And in each of those cases, the local governments of those impacted communities have been so powerful in pushing the state to respond to the contamination. So just really wanted to kind of reinforce that your voice and your platform is incredibly important to hold the state accountable. And that partnering with the community can really bring about some kind of meaningful change. The second quick point I wanted to mention is that, you've probably heard a lot about PFOA and that specific chemical in the water. But it's really important to note that is not the only toxic PFAS, either in the middle school's water or that's showing up in private wells in the area. And I think Judith spoke to that a little earlier. From my understanding, there are 6 PFAS chemicals in the middle school that we know of so far. And that the kind of full suite of 29 PFAS chemicals that we test for might not have been tested for yet. So really want to reinforce the point that all of the PFAS chemicals in this class pose a danger to human health. And it's so important to kind of be transparent with the public about all of these chemicals that might be showing up in the water, and to make sure that the testing is done, that is being done, it is incorporating and telling people about as many of those as possible. So thanks for your time, and looking forward to tonight.
Yes, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Leanne Sley. I live at 60 Tyneson Road in Poestenkill. I'm calling in regards to my neighbor's dogs on Tyneson Road. And I know that we've been communicating via email over the last few weeks with little response from the town officials as to what took place at the proceedings on September 27th. I was able to find out in a matter of a couple of hours this afternoon when I myself called the Assistant District Attorney's office to find out what transpired during the course of proceedings and why in fact the case was dismissed due to an error on behalf of one of their town officials. So now that you have that information in your inboxes, my question is, what is the plan moving forward? How are we going to resolve this issue? We can apparently submit a secondary ticket to the neighbors regarding the issue. It is not a case of double jeopardy or anything like that. So I pose that question to the town board this evening, looking for a response and some sort of actionable item moving forward.
I spoke with the judge this morning, and there was a long delay partly because of a personal situation, but he told you that night that the documents weren't signed. Did he not?
He said that there was a piece of information missing and that we would have to circle back with Bob about that.
About Bob.
Mhm.
And they need to be signed by those people making the allegations of the doctor.
Right, so we didn't know that until
But he
today.
told you that night.
He told me that there was information missing.
Did he not tell you you needed a signature that night?
He said there was
Well, then
information
he
missing.
must be wrong. And
All
I
right,
don't
okay.
think so. And that's all that has to be done, and it can recycle. That's it. Simple.
The judge can't render a decision without a valid complaint. He doesn't have a valid complaint. When he gets a signed complaint, it will be revisited, but no one signed the complaint.
Right, so I wasn't asked to sign anything.
Well, I'm sorry if it wasn't done properly, but everyone's aware of the situation now. We've talked with our dog control officer. We've talked with the judge. The complaint needs to be signed and then it can go forward.
So
That's
that's the plan.
That's the
That's
plan.
the answer.
Yes.
So what is the time frame for that?
I don't know. You need to sign the complaint as soon as you can, and then it'll go in front of the judge the next monthly meeting.
Well, the people she had speaking on behalf of her, writing on behalf of her,
I'm
They-
sorry,
the people you had that sent in additional information,
that was me.
that was it? You were the only one?
I was the only one. I've been complaining about it for 3 years.
But did you sign the complaint?
I was never asked to.
Well,
So you are now.
nothing's going to happen until you sign the complaint. And I can tell you, as somebody who actually had to pay a $50 fine because my dog ran on somebody else's property, if you sign the complaint, they do take action.
The problem that I have is that, we shouldn't put the onus on this resident to do all this work. We should know how to sign documents and make sure that we hand them in correctly. And the resident shouldn't have to call the ADA. We sent an email, I sent an email, no, check that. Bob sent an email a week ago asking for why this happened. And we ended up getting the answer from the resident. It's not her job to make us do our job. And this is the problem that we have in this town with certain things. We don't enforce our own laws. And she's been talking about this for years. We know that. And then we can't sign a document and we're saying, well, you got to sign it. Well, shouldn't our own employees know how to do these things?
Our own employees didn't file the complaint. The complaint has to come from a resident. It's one person's, wait, excuse me, wait.
He submitted a ticket.
Yeah.
Right. He submitted the ticket, not her.
No one's saying that he didn't make a mistake, but not going into court with a signed complaint. No one's saying that. No one has said that here.
All right, but then.
A mistake was made. That doesn't mean that the whole system is broken.
Well, I want to remind the town board that I sat at the town board a few months ago and I said, I am going to request that we send Jack to the town, to the court, so that we take this matter seriously. No one agreed with me. So now we have delayed it another few more months and put more onus back on the resident because we didn't want to do our job. So now it'll be a few more months before, hold on a second. It'll be a few more months before we can get another complaint signed. We can go issue another ticket, bring it back into court. They'll adjourn it the first time. They'll say they don't have an attorney. And we'll be talking about March probably before this goes. And instead of just following my advice, we would have had the answer that night. We would not have made our resident call the ADA's office and track all this information down.
I would like to remind you that you are part of this town board, and if you wanted that done, no one on this board stopped you. You could have called the dog warden and taken care of this
Hold on a
yourself.
second. I sat here at a town board meeting and said, I want the town attorney at the hearing. Do you remember that?
No,
You don't remember that?
no. Was that
Do
at
you
last
remember
month's
that?
meeting?
Does Dave remember that?
But
Dave doesn't remember. June, do you remember it?
There was a discussion. but
Okay,
I
so we
think-
got two that remember and two that don't. So that's three with me. So I don't know what's going on at these meetings. I
Excuse
specifically
me.
said that we should have Jack at this so that we know it's being taken seriously. And if we need to have better minutes, we need to have better minutes so that we can go back and check these things.
You
This is
asked-
not a hard thing to do. And now it's going to be 2 years and a few more months before we can even get back into court.
You asked that question at the meeting if Jack could be there. And Jack's response was that he didn't necessarily know that that was going to be of assistance.
Well, it would have been an assistance. So she said that she wasn't, that Jack said he didn't think he'd be of assistance. Well, he would have been assistance. So then why don't we all take a moment now and say, when this finally goes back to the court, we are going to ask that Jack be at these, let's all talk about that right now.
It's
Let's
my
remember.
assumption that when you file a complaint, that you automatically go. That's a part of the job. Because somebody didn't go, a mistake was made. But that doesn't mean the entire board has to go to a court meeting. and-
Well, I didn't say that. I said we should send Jack. He's our attorney.
Well, and that's true,
Yeah.
but would you like to comment, Jack?
Well, I'm not her attorney. I did confer. Didn't I call you the night of the court appearance?
The afternoon, and you said you weren't going to be able to be there.
Right. But I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow and find out what went on. And didn't we confer the next day? My recollection is we did, or maybe after the court appearance. then.
No, I think I called to tell you that it was dismissed and that you'd find out why, but I never heard back. And there was multiple emails back and forth inquiring, and I never heard back specifically from you. So the plan, to get back to PFOA, the plan moving forward is to resubmit this ticket. Correct? So then I'll look forward for that within a week's time. Some from one of the town officials.
Well, we won't submit it, but the dog warden will.
Great. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Kim Sullivan on Mountain Beach Road, and I just wanted to speak in support of helping residents pay for the well testing. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have submitted that on my own last Thursday to get my well tested, but not everyone can do that. And there's a lot of anxiety that people have about their well. And if they don't have the means to do that, I think we should be helping them to do that. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Stan Rocky, Heather Ridge Road, Cooper Park. I think it's important to just step back a second and allow this environmental assessment to get traction and make some progress before we start to talk about test wells and who pays for what. I think the right combination of people are present and fully engaged and focused on this complex issue. Burnett, folks at State Health Department's Environmental Assessment Lab, the DEC people, County Health Department, they all have considerable experience in looking at PFOA, particularly when they're grouped together. Collectively, I think they make a valuable team. And I for one, am comfortable just stepping back and allowing them to do what they need to do. This is not their first effort. There's lessons learned by those agencies with the experience in Hoosick Falls and elsewhere, and painful lessons perhaps. But nevertheless, they have the experience. In terms of who pays for the testing, again, I think it's too soon to press town of Poestenkill to undertake the costs of very expensive testing when the state is already engaged in doing that. I think test wells may be appropriate, but not yet. The investigation needs to be carried out carefully, step by step, methodically, without jumping too far ahead. Don't go to step 2 until step 1 is complete. I think this is still early in the game, and I think it's important for us all to be patient and let the science accumulate and let the decisions be based in a stepwise fashion based on what's been learned. So it's going to take a while, and we need to be patient. It's anxiety producing when there's unknowns, but we have to let the science develop.
Can we use you? Can you speak at the back half of the meeting instead? We'll have another opportunity. Is there anyone that hasn't had an opportunity to speak? Yes, please.
Steve Sauer, 14 Lincoln. I'm on the back side of the landfill, which again, we're not sure if that's the source. I'm assuming, based on looking around, that I'm the youngest one here. Well, I don't always keep up on the most current events on the town. I find it a little odd that after 11 months is why we have a letter, which is probably why everyone's sitting here today. It's not to say that, you know, I saw it when it first came out and went, okay, cool, they're going to test. We're 11 months in at this point, and this is the first real letter that anyone's got. If you're not going on the town board website or something like that, you don't know that you're possibly drinking PFOA. I handle about 300 to 400 acres of runoff from that entire area coming that way. I have a water table that's significantly high, as you saw the other day, which thankfully that's getting resolved, I believe. But I think going forward, I don't know if it needs to be a letter or something else, but we should not have to actively look to see if our water's possibly got toxins in it, things like that. As I mentioned before, we shouldn't be necessarily always pushing for you guys to do what you need to do. I appreciate the testing and everything like that, and we can even look into bulk testing for wells where the residents pay for it, but if we have an agreement with some lab, maybe we could cut it down to $200. So it'd be affordable, and then the town could supplement those that can. But I would like to see a little more notice go out. Obviously now, eyes open, whole room, eyes open, but this isn't the whole town. So I would say, make sure we get actual updates on this. And let people know by post or something like that, because not everyone looks at the town board website. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Quentin Curtis. I live up on Snyder Corner Road. I'm not really affected with the PFOA And I hope that the town board passes the resolution to pay for the well testing. But I don't really think it's the town's duty to do that. I think it's the county. The county is patting themselves on the back. We have an $18 million surplus. They can't give Poestenkill $10,000. $10,000. That's 28 people's homes that they can test. It's now, if the town passes this resolution to pay for the well testing, are they going to go to the county to get reimbursed for this? They have $18 million. That's $10,000, $20,000. If they gave us $20,000, that's 56 homes that can be tested. They have $18 million. Give town something to help the people test the property. It shouldn't be relied on the town. We're a small town. We don't have a lot of money. They have $18 million. $10,000, $20,000. The town should be more reimbursed by the county, but the county's not doing anything. It's an election time. They're patting themselves on the back. We got $18 million. Give some little bit, just 1%, $10,000, something to reimburse the town for these testing. Shouldn't be on the sole responsibility of this town. And the other thing was this bickering back and forth of what was said at a board meeting. How do you guys do your minutes? Is this all recorded? Now, if it's not getting properly recorded, this lady says she came to the board and made a complaint. You guys say you don't remember. If you had a proper system of audio tapes, some record, you can go back and check it and not call the town resident a liar. She did something wrong. You can actually go back and see what was actually said. We should have a better way of recording these meetings and not putting people like resident on the line like that. I mean, it's just wrong.
I would like to clarify that I don't think anybody here called her a liar. What we were saying, at least what I am saying, is the all control officer didn't have the proper paperwork, and that's why it was adjourned. No one called her a liar.
Well, put her down. I mean, she was saying this was what's happening, and you're saying no.
No, we're not saying it's not happening. Listen, I'm well aware what's going on up there. I have my own experiences with those dogs. I know what's going on up there, but I'm telling you, a judge can't do anything unless he has a signed complaint, and that's all I'm saying.
Right, but the lady said she was not told this stuff.
And I believe her. I believe her that she wasn't told. But there's nothing I could do about it until a complaint's signed.
I mean, at least you could say, I'm sorry, there was a misunderstanding. No.
We are sorry. We're deeply sorry. But I'm not going to castigate my dog control officer and everyone involved. Mistakes were made. People are human. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Sean Schmeeding, over on Algonquin Beach Road. I didn't think I'd speak tonight. We're not coming to these meetings. So that's safe for a lot of us here. I'm at a loss for words. Like I was operating in good faith that with the whole water issue, that we could trust you all to operate in good faith and probably get done what we needed you to get done. Echo this gentleman's sentiments. A lot of saltiness that comes from the other side of the table. Just the fact that, again, this woman was up here and he didn't say sorry. It took him calling you guys out before that sorry even came up. Right? You guys immediately started to attack her. You guys get angry up there. Is that how this normally functions? It really means I don't think you guys are going to operate in good faith at all in terms of what's going on with our water. So I'm losing hope. I had some. I don't know if I have any anymore. It's disappointing and it's just not what any of us want to see. Let's get it together. I unprize everyone. I would like to also go on the record to give a shout out to Eric in terms of communicating to everyone who has a very invested interest in this, keeping us up to date, letting us know what's going on, sending emails almost daily so we actually know what's going on. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, if you've already spoke, please, there's another comment period at the end, but let's let people who haven't spoke come forward first.
Scott Biddle from 8 Deer Creek Road, and talking about the White Church PDD. Since the last meeting, what I did was I put a petition together for, I went down Deer Creek, Bayberry, and I'm looking at the road across the street to Hinkle up in the back. So I got over 30 signatures already, and I haven't even touched one Hinkle. I have 5 houses in it. So people are not happy with this project. Since the last meeting, I reached out to Kevin because it doesn't seem like we can get anything done here because everybody just wants the different. So I said to him, hey, give and take. He doesn't want to give and take. We want fresh water on our street if you're going to put this cluster septic in. I don't want to be in the same spot as these poor people are by Algonquin Estates. Bullshit. Pure and simple. We've been talking about this over and over again. I talked to you last night, Keith. You're going to vote for this today, I assume.
No.
So you said.
No.
So, you've had business dealings with Kevin in the past. It's just unethical. There's so much stuff going on here. It's just crazy. So I'm gonna get more signatures together and I will propose this for the next meeting. So this whole thing goes against the comprehensive plan that's out there. And I don't even know why we're talking. I mean, we voted on it once and it got shot down. It's tied 2-2. So I don't know why we're back here again. But here we are. So that's where we stand with this for now, but I will have this to you guys before the next board meeting. I'll drop it off, give you guys all a copy of it and even send a copy to the planning board as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll have another opportunity at the end of the,
Sorry, just have two remote comments on the PFOA specifically.
okay.
Brief. First, my husband and I paid to have our wells tested and have found PFOA and PFAS in our water below the state level. My request is that the town make every effort to have the test results such as mine in the overall analysis of the extent and search for the source. We have taken personally financed steps to mediate our well water. Second comment, considering the first PFOA test came in 9 to 10 months ago, I think the town has had plenty of time to follow the science, and I do not understand why testing is now being done at a very slow rate. Some of us, myself included, have paid for our own tests, and nothing has been done to determine the source. The delays have gone on long enough, and it is time for the town to take a more aggressive approach and advocate more aggressively with the county and the state.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my name is Sue Gibbons. We live right on Route 66 by the Nessel. We did have one property that came back and tested well over the limit. I really want to thank Eric, Bob, and Judy for advocacy. I don't go to a lot of town board meetings, but what's really bothering me right now is to see the divide in this town board. And I hope that divide is not regarding our water and the testing and what needs to be done. And so I'm just hoping as a town board, the town attorney, that you're all working in the best interest and pressuring the county and the state to take care of us. Thank you.
Okay, well, we have another opportunity. We'll move on to the town clerk's minutes. We'll do the September 16th ones first.
I'll make a motion to accept the town clerk's minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain. I wasn't present.
I'll make a motion.
I have a question on the 7th, but if Dave wants to make.
Wait, on what we just passed or?
No, I'm fine with the 16th. I think.
Go ahead.
I just had a chance to read these, so I apologize. On the 17th or on the 7th, we talked about the vacant buildings resolution that I proposed. And I'm confused what the minutes say. It says here, the town board members and members of the audience asked many questions, and the bottom line responses indicated that the solutions to these situations are extremely difficult and time-consuming and frequently involve Rensselaer County in numerous legalities, many of which could be handled by the code enforcement officer using the New York State Property Maintenance Code and other existing town codes. That's not what I understood from that meeting. We talked about, we talked about this resolution, and we had the members from Brunswick there. And we talked about one of the challenging parts of that law, if it's passed, is when you're dealing with the first lender, when a bank owns a house and is the first lender and trying to get them to maintain the property in a proper way. That's what I understood from that meeting. That the way this is written makes it sound like something different to me.
Oh, do you have a proposed change?
Just strike that whole sentence.
Does anybody have a problem striking that sentence?
I think those things were discussed also. I think you should maybe add his comments.
So were you able to digest his comments, and are you going to be able to put them in an adjusted form? We don't have to adopt them tonight. We can give you time to review them and then get back to Sue, and we can do it next month. All right, let's go on to the October 14th.
Sorry, I just want to say one thing to what the gentleman said back there. And this is actually on the agenda tonight, but this is a good reason why these meetings should be recorded live and put up there, so we can always go back and look at it. And I'm not being disrespectful. I think there's a confusion here because we did speak about one aspect of this law that is tough. And there is one aspect of this law that is tough. But for the most part, it can be done. It's being done in towns all around our county. But anyways, that's all.
Can I just make a point that hasn't been made? We do record all our meetings on tape, and then if they're on Zoom, have it recorded on Zoom. So the meetings were recorded. People here who spoke about what Eric asked about just simply don't remember it. If you'd like to go through the recordings and track it down, or this lady who would like to go through the recordings, we have to do FOIA request, right? You can do a FOIA request with the town clerk, and you can listen to the meetings.
I do it virtually after every town board meeting. The recorder's right there working. So it's
First of all, I don't know where anybody would go to get the Zoom recording. If someone could tell me, I would love to find that out. Number two, because that doesn't get saved. Number two, I don't know that it's well, I'll only speak for myself. I don't want to put it on the town residents that have to listen to hours and hours of our town board meetings to track down on a tape when you have to rewind it and go fast forward it. Because last time I did it, I forgot how to do it, to be honest with you. I think in 2021 and soon 2022, we can do this online and it can be up on the website so people can access it. And like this gentleman said, we can go back and look at what people actually said.
Okay. We're still on the October 14th minutes. Is there any comment?
I make a motion to accept.
A second?
second.
All in favor? Thank you. We have our correspondence. Do we have any questions about them? We'll move on to our liaison reports. Do we have anyone here from the planning board?
Good evening. We had a meeting on October 5th. The only item on the agenda was the Cooper Hills 8-lot major subdivision through the Duchess. We went back and forth, and DOT, one item, DOT informal site distance review. Got an informal yes from them, but we're looking for more information from DOT. The Gush party was looking to move forward on a project
but we're trying to proceed in very diligent manner on that. And trying to go and review everything, not trying to rush forward and making mistakes. Coming back in November, and possibly holding and setting up the public hearing for that at that time. And just a little side note, the 10-lot parcel behind what the Gushes are buying on 355 will be the access road through now Vanderheiden's training establishment. That is being sold by Vanderheiden to some individual. We're trying to proceed to get that done as quickly as possible. Raise money as they kind of finish off with Gushes. The Gushes have a contract with Vanderheiden to purchase it once they get approval from the planning board. And that was, we talked a little bit about the comprehensive plan and that's part of it. That was it.
Thank you. Anyone from the zoning board?
We did meet this month, but we didn't have any new application before us, so we just had to approve the minutes from a couple months ago.
Fire company? No report? We do have reports from every department here as well that we have in our book. So when they say they have no report, it's not that they didn't have a report. They did. It's just nothing to add to it. Library?
Hi, library is back in business in terms of programming, so we're excited to resume story time starting this Friday. We've also got the Lego Club, it's back, and we're having a STEM program in November, and then Halloween craft night just the other night. It's socially distanced, keeping everybody safe, but some action back in the library, so that's all good. Our other news is that the director that we hired in June is having to leave the position because of a change in her husband's job. So we are in the final stages of finding a director for that.
Thank you.
Quick question. How did the puzzle sale go?
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. Yeah, this is
I'm
the.
sorry, I missed it.
I know.
How much money did you guys make?
Friends made, I think it was 900, maybe 1,000.
Nice.
What was it? 1,100.
Nice.
I know. Jigsaw puzzles are killing it. So no, touch that.
Youth?
Halloween parade is October 30th, and that's about it.
CAC, is there anyone from CAC? We haven't, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We haven't met.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd like to discuss tonight. They haven't met in quite a while. I'd like to see them meet. If the board doesn't mind, I'd like to set a date for them to meet and discuss their leadership and where they're going for their next year. They haven't had a meeting in quite a while and it's been sitting in limbo. So I'd like to schedule a meeting for them. Is there a time that you would prefer?
I guess any Thursday is fine, or Tuesday.
Well, how about we do the second Tuesday of next month? On
Is that
election night?
zoning?
No.
That's zoning on Thursday.
Well, you can do Thursday because our meeting's into the 3rd. Is that Thursday all right? Second Thursday?
Second Thursday would be the 11th. of Veterans Day,
All right.
which is fine. I don't know.
Well, no,
You
I don't want to.
Or the 4th is 2 days after election day. First Thursday.
Is that date all right with you guys?
I'm assuming that it is. I'll have to get back to you.
Is that all right with the rest of the board that we picked that date?
Yeah.
7 o'clock?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to schedule a meeting. Thank you. All right, Discussion items. The first we have is the update on local law, dog control officer, A1 in my book. Eric would like to add to the first paragraph, crowing hens.
No, my mistake on this, sorry. So this is separate from the one we talked about 2 months ago, because I got the idea that the town board did not want to talk about crowing hens, so we can just strike that. The reason for this is that when I talked to Bob, he said that he talked to Ag and Markets, and Ag and Markets told him that because he's a dog control officer, he does not have authority to deal with chickens. Now, it would be funny, but it took us 17 months to deal with the chicken problem in this town, which we now know it's taking us a long time to deal with dog problems in this town. So I've created this and what he said was that he was directed by Ag and Markets that the town needed to accept the local law that gives him the authority to give appearance tickets and penalties. So that's what this is. You can strike crowing hens out of that. So what I did was simply stated that the dog control officer has the authority to do such as that. And I set the penalties for $25 for your first fine and $50 for your second. And it can go from there. But as we found with the Lewis's on Vosburg, we can't spend 17 months asking people to do the nice thing. Sometimes we have to have a ticket to say, if you don't do it, we're going to give you an appearance ticket. Hopefully we'll sign the complaint on that one, but that's something that I think we need to have for our town. So that's why I put this up for the town board to discuss.
So let me understand. This isn't specifically for crowing hens. This is for
chickens. So the crowing hens can be struck out of this. That was just when I had written this up in the summer. I put that in there.
Oh, so when he gets a complaint for chickens in general, not necessarily crowing hen, chickens on somebody else's property, this will address that.
Yeah, right now he has no authority to actually issue an appearance ticket. So what happened was with Vosburg, we kept going back and asking, but he can't give you a ticket for breaking our own laws, our own rules, because he doesn't have the authority to do so. And this would give him that authority.
I don't have a problem with this.
I'd like to hear Jack's opinion on it. Does the code enforcement officer have the authority to ticket somebody for chickens?
It would seem so.
Outlawed in the code.
I don't know.
Is there any guidance?
Well, yes, the code does not allow somebody's chickens to go on someone else's property. If this addresses a problem of somebody's chickens roosting on somebody else's deck, I mean, I have chickens, I like chickens, but I don't expect my neighbors to have to put up with them either, so.
Well, if there's a violation of the code, then of course the code enforcement officer can issue a ticket.
So we don't need to have a dog control officer have that authority as well.
Don't need to.
Don't need to. So if there's an issue, code enforcement officer can take care of it. Is that correct?
I don't know that. I don't know that to be true at all.
If there's a violation of the code enforcement officer can issue process to get somebody in the court.
Happened initially at one point in town in the hamlet that Paul Barringer was called in to look at the situation.
So we already have the authority to do this.
So do we mean to say that we had the authority to fix this chicken problem? It took us 17 months not to fix it?
Well, that's because they were claiming it was a crowing hen. It's kind of like the jackalope in Wyoming.
I can assure you that it was not a crowing hen. It was a rooster. I know where it is. I've seen it.
But we didn't even enforce our codes then. So I just wanted to be able to enforce our codes in the future.
You can.
Then why didn't we?
You sure don't seem to like this town very much, Eric. You're attacking everybody in this town.
Does someone want to take up that piece? We're now going to attack other town board members?
Well, you are.
All right,
No,
guys.
no, we're
Wait.
not.
All right, stop. This doesn't accomplish anything. Look at Eric. Are you comfortable with the answer you just got from our town
No,
attorney?
not at all. If this was a code enforcement issue, then why didn't we deal with it for 17 months? We were told over and over again that Bob couldn't issue a ticket. We were, I mean, we were told that.
It was my
So now
understanding-
I have put this in place, and now the answer is, oh, it's already on the books. We just chose
Well,
not to
it was
follow our own book.
my understanding that he couldn't enforce it because there was no such thing as a crowing hen.
Right, and when I try to include crowing hens into the local code, we wouldn't do that.
I'm telling you right now, you just said strike this. Look, I don't even believe there is a crowing hen, but if you want to insert that into the code, I'm not gonna fight you on it. I don't.
We're proving the point here. I have brought this up at 2 other town board meetings, and I said, I want as the Lewis has asked, to include the words crowing hens in the code. I've done that twice. We did not put it in.
Because
You do remember that, right?
I do.
Okay, so with that not happening, and what we heard from the ag and markets, that our dog control officer does not have the authority to do this, I've asked for this, 2 separate things. So if we were, I don't want to get back into that old argument, but we're either saying we do have the authority to do it, we just didn't do it, or we don't have the authority and we should put this in.
Well, where would you like to go from here, Eric? What would you like to do? What's your answer? Just give me some guidance here.
Vote on this thing. That's it. We need to give somebody the authority to issue an appearance.
And our
ticket.
town attorney is giving us advice opposite of what you're saying.
Okay, well then why is the ag and markets telling Bob that he doesn't have the authority?
Because Bob doesn't, it goes to the code enforcement
So then
officer.
why did it take us 17 months not to do our job? We talked about this and I mean, we're talking in circles here. I mean, this is the first time hearing about this. I mean, so we talked about this for 17 months about.
I have been able to enforce roosters.
What's that?
Roosters.
Oh, so you can enforce roosters?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this talks about specifically when you have more than 6 chickens, when the coop isn't fenced in, which was the problem we had, which was a separate problem from the crowing hens on Bosberg. And it also mentions roosters. So these are the things that this town board put in place when they expanded the ability for town residents to have chickens. All I'm saying is the town board expanded those rights. Now we have to have the ability for someone to issue appearance tickets when they do not follow the town code.
Okay, let's have some clarification here. This was not a problem of the code enforcement or the dog control officer not wanting to pursue it. No one up to this point has ever heard of a crowing hen. Now, I gotta be honest with you, I think I'm the only one at this table with an agricultural degree, and I've had chickens my whole life, and I don't think I've ever seen or heard of a crowing hen. So that was probably the problem. Nobody's ever heard of it. I've never seen one, and the dog control officer and the building inspector have never seen one or heard of one either. So, you know, if you want to put crowing hens in there, I don't care. To me, it isn't gonna make much of a difference, but that's what was the problem, Eric. It's not. Well, that was the problem. The problem was that they had chickens and one of them was crowing and it was bothering them. So we had to determine whether it was a chicken or a hen, and they were claiming it was a hen that was crowing like a chicken. I can assure you that I have seen this crowing hen, and it is not a hen, it is a rooster. So you can blame the code enforcement officer for not being able to determine whether it was a hen or a crow, but no one was dragging their feet purposely here. It's not an easy job to be a code enforcement officer or a dog control officer. And if the intent here is just to beat up on people, well, shame on you.
Keith, there's no one beating up on anybody. I sit through these meetings like everyone else does. We can't enforce our own dog laws. We couldn't enforce our own chicken laws. We have issues at this town board where I have a piece of legislation to deal with public standards and decorum, of which one of the things we talk about in my legislation on decorum is we don't attack other board members by name. And this is a perfect example that my colleague just did when he said that. This is, as Sean said, these are how these meetings work, unfortunately. And they need not to work this way. I am not trying to get into some roundabout discussion. We had an issue. The town board did not want to put in the words crowing hens. That was fine. That's gone. That's down the road. It took 17 months from the first time the residents called the town and had a problem. Shouldn't take 17 months to fix a problem. Shouldn't take 17 days, 17 weeks. Now, all I'm saying is we were told by the code enforcement officer, we were told by the animal control officer, we can't send anybody to court. We all know that, right? We all agree that that happened because we had these conversations. We couldn't bring this person to court. So all we could do was ask them nicely to please follow our codes. I'm just saying, let's put something in that gives somebody the authority to bring, to say, I'll issue an appearance ticket if you can't keep your chickens either penned in, less than 6, or if the roosters are making too much noise.
All right, so
I don't think this is very difficult.
It isn't. What you're basically trying to do is take the code enforcement officer's job of enforcing chicken laws and moving it to the dog control officer.
Well, today,
is that what we're doing or not doing? I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know, because for the first time ever, we're saying that the code enforcement is in charge of this. But Bob asked the state ag and market, and they said he needs his own law. So maybe Jack can look into this for us, because we seem to be confused on who's in charge of this.
There is a town councilman in this town who I will not name due to his desire, who is giving the exact example of why I oppose to televising our meetings. He sees the cameras here and he's showboating. I'm asking this other councilman, who I shall not name, if he would like a pedestal to stand on to make sure that all these speeches that this other councilman is giving are clearly heard for his television audience.
All right.
Keith, someone's got to ring these meetings.
Okay.
This is a perfect.
This is how these meetings go?
This is a
Come
perfect.
on, guys. I agree with you.
This is
All right.
Who are you over here?
Guys, please, look at, stop. This is not helpful.
None of this is helpful up here.
Okay, all right.
None of this. Take control of this meeting.
Let's move on the agenda to the next item, and we'll have our town attorney look into it.
Another reason why we need town to.
Please, Eric, please,
Quorum.
come on, can we just move on and bicker later? All right, let's go on to the action items. This brings us, your resolution, Eric, you want to take this one? I don't know what number it is, I'll have to ask Sue.
Are we doing the water one?
Yep. Well, testing.
Not in order, unless you want to jump it out of order.
Oh, I don't have it. I don't know what that was. Oh, wait.
You want to do Terry first?
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't even know where it is.
Motion.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is scheduling a public hearing for White Church. I'll entertain a motion to set it next month, our public hearing date. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, next month will be the public hearing for White Church. We have a resolution here that I'll read to appoint our new town engineer. Appointment of Wayne Bonesteel, town engineer for the town of Poestenkill. Whereas the town of Poestenkill from time to time has the need for an engineer consultant, and whereas Wayne Bonesteel has proven to the board that he has the necessary qualifications to serve in various departments of the town government with the expertise, and whereas the town board wishes to appoint Mr. Bonesteel to the position of town engineer, now let it be therefore resolved that the town of Poestenkill of the town of that the town board of the town of Poestenkill hereby appoint Wayne Bonesteel as town engineer for the town of Poestenkill. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Negative.
Voted negative? Nobody voted negative, okay. This is for a contract to stream for the town hall, the meetings. Eric, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Well, I proposed this in either January or February of 2020, that we contract with a service that would record our town board meetings for those who want to watch. And at the time that was asked to go out and get proposals, went out and got 3 proposals. We didn't move on it at that time because it wasn't in the budget. It was fortuitous that we were talking about that in the beginning of 2020, because obviously in March, COVID came and all of our town board meetings went via Zoom. We put the money in the 2021 budget. We have the service that is the cheapest, which is Town Hall Stream, which is still willing to keep their bidded price at $3,000 per year, even though the price has now gone up. And I think we should have done this a long time ago. These meetings should be televised. And they should be recorded so folks can watch them from home if they so choose live. And this service will also allow them to be put on the website, to be hosted, so folks can go back and look at them at their own leisure. And this money is already in the budget because the town board put it in the budget late last year.
Any discussion?
Perhaps I was mistaken, but yes, it was in the budget for 3,000. Perhaps I'm mistaken. I realized that it was in the budget for $3,000, but I did not realize that it's an ongoing charge every year. I thought they were going to come in, just install the equipment, and it was going to be monitored by ourselves somehow. So with the Zoom, this is $355 a month. Or $305, I guess. Zoom is costing $20 a month, so I don't really see that this is cost effective.
Harold?
I didn't realize it's annually. I think the Zoom myself is adequate for this point in time.
We also wouldn't be able to have it here, whereas we can have Zoom here if we necessary to move to the larger space, as often happens.
I think Zoom actually offers a superior product because it allows the interactivity of people who are watching to be able to ask questions or speak to us if we had a monitor on the wall. And that's something that this service apparently does not do. People have to email questions. And so we have to be monitoring an email account at the same time that we're running a meeting. So I oppose this proposal.
Well, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the contract. And I will mention that 2 things. Number 1, Zoom does not get recorded and put up anywhere. It is here for now at this instant. This service would record it and it would sit on our town website forever. And number 2, I've been on the town board for 6 years. This is the 4th meeting that we didn't have in the town hall. So very rarely are we not meeting in the town hall. And finally, this is a service that North Greenbush uses, that Sand Lake uses, that East Greenbush uses, that Skodak uses, and I believe Berlin uses. So the audio on the Zoom, first of all, I want to thank Mike Noble. He deserves many thanks because he is doing this on his own and he is setting this up, and it's going to sound much better. On the normal town board meeting, when we have this, it's a laptop, and I've heard lots of complaints that people can't hear. And I've Zoomed into meetings and I have a hard time hearing and understanding what's going on. So $3,000 a year when we are sitting about to pass a budget that is $1.6 million is a speck of sand. And the quality that we would get from this town hall service is needed, and it's frankly was probably needed 7 or 8 years ago. So I'll make the motion that we spend the money that we put aside for this specific reason a year ago to go ahead and sign this contract with Town Hall.
Well, I'll second it. Yeah.
Councilwoman Butler?
No.
Councilman Haas?
No.
Councilman Van Slyke?
No.
Councilman Oliver?
Yep.
Supervisor Henry?
Yes. Motion fails. All right, this brings us to our resolution on funding people's wells for PFOA.
For the, I just want to say briefly, I agree with what Phil said and that this gentleman back here. Look, this is not the town of Poestenkill's responsibility to pay for these well testings. It's not. I know that. And the reality is, someone needs to do it. The state should be, the state didn't do this work, the state didn't helping us, but it's not happening. So in the meantime, we have people that aren't getting their wells tested. And so, yes, the town will have to, I'm proposing that the town spend the money, put the money up front, and then hold those receipts and go to the state and say, we want to be paid back for this. Certainly, we have a lot less money than the county does to do this, a lot less money than the state does have to do this. But I think this is a case where someone has to step up and do the right thing. So the town on board of the town of Poestenkill shall support residents in the vicinity of the Algonquin Middle School by providing well testing at no cost to property owners. Whereas in January 2021, the town of Poestenkill was informed that PFOA contamination was discovered at the Algonquin Middle School in the town of Poestenkill on Route 66. Whereas the level of the PFOA discovered in the middle school exceeds the New York State limit for safe drinking water of 10 parts per trillion. Whereas the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and New York State Department of Health and the Rensselaer County Health Department then conducted 10 tests at no cost to our residents in August 2021. Of these tests, 3 were detected PFOA contamination, 2 of the 3 exceeding the New York State limit for safe drinking water. Whereas DEC, DOH, and Rensselaer County Department of Health agreed to conduct an additional round of tests at no cost to residents in October 2021. Whereas DEC, DOH, and Rensselaer County Department of Health agreed, have been told they've agreed to do another 28 tests at no cost to those residents in mid-October. Whereas the town of Poestenkill has worked with a lab which conducts these tests to lower the cost from $500 to $350, whereas DOH has set a clear precedent in testing of PFOA contamination in Rensselaer County by paying for hundreds of tests to be conducted for private wells in Hoosick Falls and Petersburg, and should be doing the same here in Poestenkill. Whereas the Poestenkill residents are now paying $350 to test their wells, which some cannot afford, and the cost is proving to be a hindrance to others to get their wells tested. Whereas the town of Poestenkill can, by paying for these tests for the residents, ensure more wells are tested and tested quickly to ensure that our residents are equipped with the information they need to ensure their safety and well-being. It should be noted that this money can be derived from the federal COVID dollars, which are being given to the town of more than $400,000. Whereas the town of Poestenkill shall collect and retain the cost of these tests and submit it later to the New York State Department of Health for reimbursement. Now let it therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Poestenkill shall initially set aside $35,000 to be directed for testing of wells in the vicinity of the Algonquin Middle School. So moved.
Is there a second? I don't support this. This town, it's not our responsibility, and I agree there. And I do wish the state would do more, but it is not the town's responsibility. If I test one well in Algonquin, I got to test everybody that asks for a test in Poestenkill. And you're putting a burden on the entire tax base for a particular portion of the town when it is a state responsibility. I feel bad for the people that want their tests and they can't get them, but I think you wait till the 10 tests in Algonquin Estates are completed. And if you find that it's a bigger problem than it currently is, then maybe we can revisit this. But at this particular time, I am not ready to risk our town's finances for the unknown. And honestly, these particular tests at 350 right now maybe in the future they will be, but right now, the health department and the state don't recognize them. They basically aren't much better than a Walgreens COVID test. They'll give peace of mind to people, and they are right most of the time, but they're not the most accurate test, and they're not the test that the state is doing, and they're not the test that the county's doing. And I would prefer a test that tested for everything accurately than just dishing out $350 for a test that no one's recognizing. So at this particular time, I don't want to spend the money. I'm sorry. I just don't think it's our responsibility, and I think it'd be irresponsible of me to push forward something that we don't know we're ever going to get paid back for. You know, we'll spend the money now and maybe somebody will pay us back. Well, I don't have the belief that we ever will get paid back. And if they were so willing to pay, they'd be doing it now. So I agree with you, Eric. The state is dragging their feet, and I applaud you for all your effort. And I know you're working really hard on this. And but at this particular time, Eric, I just can't support this. I'm sorry.
Can we get some clarifications on this testing? Now, I'm a little confused now, where Steve, you said the tests aren't valid.
I'm not saying they're not valid. I'm saying they're not recognized by the state or the county because they.
I'd like to kind of say this. Here's this woman, very knowledgeable, Pete, and I don't distrust your knowledge of the testing, but could you speak to this?
Sure, that's just not true. This is a state certified lab. This is a lab that's done many years of testing, and it's just not accurate to say that it's not accurate testing.
It may be accurate for your standards, but I'm telling you, the state and the county don't recognize this test. They just don't. They came right out and told me they don't.
The state told you that?
Yes. And also, as far as the targeting of it, I think they have a pretty good idea where this is. I think
Where is it? Yeah, where is it? The target, where is it?
it's south of Algonquin School. Here's all I know. Last Friday at work, 3 people from the state came to me and they asked for maps to certain areas of the town. And they're targeting areas. But you know, even if they find the cause or who caused it, that person might have been dead for the last 30 years. You know, there was so much going on in that corner that whoever did this, chances of them paying us back and paying for this,
We're not asking who did it. We want to know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's coming from until you do the test. Now, you're going to just pick and choose. Now you're saying, if the people want the water tested, it's costing them $350. Okay. Who is saying, okay, your well's going to get tested, who's not going to get tested? Do we have to wait until another year to find out maybe somebody's 10 feet from the school? We might test your property, we might not. I mean,
I'm just saying, I as a town councilman, don't want to spend the money testing a small group of people's wells when everybody in town has the same right. They have the same right.
the state doesn't recognize the testing and stuff like that. Okay, who does the state recognize to do the testing? Let us find out who they recognize, a company that does the proper testing, find out what the cost is, and then we'll use what the state or the county recognizes. If the state and county is not recognizing anybody, I mean.
They're recognizing certain labs, but the particular lab that is giving you the deal at 350, they are not recognizing. It's not something I'm making up. It's something they told me.
Okay, the difference is who's the lab where the people can send their tests to?
It's not a public discussion.
All right, okay, all right.
It's not a public discussion.
If
Go
I
ahead.
may, the issue is, where did they get the water from? But you need to have the third-party individual come to your house and test your water. You can't just go to say, here, Bob, test my water, because there's no proof, no chain of custody. What the state and county need for it to be viable is a chain of custody. So more in that, we don't need to take a gallon of water to Bob and say, please test my water. What we need to do is have somebody call the lab, say, listen, here are the houses we want you to test. Here's the addresses. Call them, test them. Because if you don't have a chain of custody, you don't know where that water came from or who sampled it on what day, if they purchased the well, they did it properly, then that data isn't clear. What we really need to find to actually figure out where it's coming from is to have good data. Any data is not good, right? So we need to have good, clear data. We need chain of custody. If we had $35,000, we could hire somebody, say like Adirondack Labs or the state labs to come in, this is where we want you to test, get a complete chain of custody, this is what we'll do, and then we'll let the homeowners know, but we need to have a chain of custody, we can't just be testing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The town board finds out who the state recognizes, have them come in and pay for it does. The town board can find out a company that's reliable, that the state recognizes, and you still can do it. We don't have to go and pick our own. This town board can do that. You find out the information, you find out from the county and state who they recognize to do the proper testing. You let the people know who
All
they
right.
can go to for this chain command, and then have it done.
Go ahead, Bob.
Let me clarify this for you, because some wrong information going on here. There are over 9,000 PFAS, of which the only two that are regulated are PFOS and PFOA. The test for 350 identified as test PFOS and PFOA. I know the results of the people so far that have gone to those 350 tests. What the county is doing is, first of all, very clearly, they fully recognize and use the capital region environmental layer. That's the one we use. I don't want anybody to think that not going to touch the layer, it's the top. Second, what the county is testing when they test, in almost a year, they're finally testing according to the news report of Channel 10 today, 18 results, of which 7 according to Channel 10 News tonight. That's 40% of failing. I don't know how much more you have to know to say I'm going to increase the testing, by God. You know, second, so what I'm telling you clear, because I talked to Richie Elder on this. Richie is testing for a lot more stuff. He's testing for stuff that's not associated with MCL. We have a PFOA and a PFOS problem. We don't have carbon change. And those two are a C8 and a C9 category. But he's tested a bunch of other stuff. Of course, he wants to use full science. Well, you know what, a year from now, maybe we'll have 50 homes and we'll still be playing with it. In my judgment, it's time to get off our butts. Specifically, the people that determine the testing are Richie Elder and the county. They're the ones that determine the first 10 were asked. Somebody said 12. I think it may have been 12% out, but some didn't take it. They determined that. And that was a quarter-mile radius from the school. Second, was it the results, 2 of which exceeded the MCL level. Because of that, those 2 results came up 12 and 24. At that point, the county said, well, we're going to test southeast. So the second request of 10 went out. Of those, the results, specifically, the second test, 2 failed the MCL. 1 came back 10, 1 came back 20. That's 28% exceeded the MCL. 28% of those wells failed on healthy water. Well, let's go further. Good to back me up on this. Just because somebody you see it, I think that lady had a 6 on her well, so the DEC says, oh geez, we're not going to do anything with that because it's below 10. But if you're 10, then we're going to come out with bottled water, we're going to install GAC, and we're going to maintain those and do other testing. But if they're less than 10, it's not going to happen. Well, in that second round, 2 failed the MCL. Also, 3 tested positive below the MCL level. Those numbers were 3 to 6.9. Between the 2 of those, that's 5 out of 7 accepted tests. 71% in my book failed. Is that what we want to look around for another year, wait for these tests to land in? Believe me, I'm on well myself. I don't expect to have a problem, but I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with people that aren't standing up saying, by God, I'm going to do 100 tests, and I'm going to do them scientifically if you want. It's about time we stood up.
So Bob, are you suggesting we pay for every,
Those tests that our people have paid $350 for are finding the PFOS in OA. I've got the results of my work.
so is it your recommendation we pay for testing throughout the town? Is that what you're recommending?
No, my recommendation is the county.
Where is it now? What are you gonna do?
All right, this is, you know what? This is not what we do. We have a resolution in front of us.
No,
I-
no, wait a minute. The county's tested 28 wells already.
I live at half a mile, okay? I've gone for middle school, every person who has a kid. I Sam Lake, Poestenkill, April Park, right?
My kids went to that school too.
My kids washing their hands and contaminated water. Why are we not doing it?
The county's tested 28 wells. They sent out 21 more letters for more tests to be done. We can't just go into people's houses without the people okay.
I live at half a mile.
I'm not a scientist, and I don't test people.
Get off grass and booster.
We do assume you control the budget, though.
All right, look at, guys, we have a resolution on board here. Does anybody else want to comment on the resolution?
Yes, I do.
All right, Harold, go ahead.
I'm not seconded. Nobody seconded.
Can I say something? This could all be totally coincidental. I've been diagnosed with the stage 3 kidney disease. 2 more stages is dialysis. The 5 weeks that we have not been drinking our water. When I did my labs the other day, my kidney functions came back improved. Is it coincidental or is it not drinking the water?
We have a resolution to pay for people's well testing here. This is not about whether we think the state is doing enough, because I don't think anybody up here is ever going to say the state has done nearly enough. But the question in front of us is, do we want the town to pay for the testing or not? That's the question in front of us.
Who seconded? I didn't hear anybody second. No one second.
No.
So,
Let me say I'll second it so that I can discuss it, because I may not vote for it. What I agree that the town could put the money up front. I just don't think this is outlined close enough as how it would be done. We just can't open it up to do everybody in town. So
Mile radius.
This isn't what the resolution says. We don't have a resolution that says
we
it.
don't have a resolution to say.
Half mile.
We can, yeah, that's, we're here to talk. We can make it a half mile, a mile, quarter mile.
Okay, and then you say you're gonna do that person. What do I tell the person in Heather Ridge or Deer Creek who also wants their well tested?
Everyone else has gotten up and spoken without getting acknowledged.
Here's the
well, it's a
deal.
shouting match and it's not how we conduct our
I
meetings.
had my hand up.
But we don't have, this isn't a
All
public
right.
discussion. That's at the end
All
of the
Here's the
meeting.
deal. On Columbus Day, we had a meeting with Congressman Delgado, who truly advocated for us. When we asked,
What did he
came
do?
up at the first community meeting, we asked for wells within a 1-mile radius of the school to be tested. Congressman Delgado wanted to know how many homes that was. Someone had said approximately 160 to 180. And he went, okay. So you're looking at approximately 160 to 100. If those people choose to have their wells tested to be done, we're not being given that opportunity. And this is from a congressman who's advocating for us. What I'm seeing right now at this town board, and I pray to God, is that you guys are not united on anything. You can't agree on anything. What are you doing as a board to advocate for us? Just remember, it's an election year. What are you doing to advocate for us as a board? Because you can't even advocate amongst yourselves tonight.
Listen, I'm gonna let this gentleman talk, but then I'm gonna cut off. There's a public comment period at the end. We have a resolution in front of us. We have to act on.
Gotta get control of the meeting with hands raised at least. This is ridiculous. Keith, I respect you. I've known you a long time in the town. I've been here since 1986. I'm not a townie because I wasn't born here, but 86 is a long time. What you said earlier about, gee, we can't do this for those around the school because we're not doing it for East Poestenkill, but we're not doing it for the village. What did we do when the villages wells were all contaminated. We created a public water supply. That was only for part of the town. What would we do if the Poestenkill Creek overflows and floods and only affects a certain part of the town? We'd all be there for it. You are dividing this town up into different parts of the town, and that's wrong. What's good for us in Algonquin, around Algonquin Middle School, should be good for the whole town. So you're causing divisiveness. It's already bad enough, obviously. And I'm sick and tired of it. Okay? So I just want to say, come together. Come together. Why not use the $3,000 that you just proposed for the contract, okay, and apply it towards this money? And my suggestion at the beginning of the meeting, Eric is a neighbor. He's done a great job of communicating. Do I agree with everything? No. I want my taxes low. I pay a lot of taxes, okay, between the town, the county, and the state, and the school districts. I'm sick and tired of it. It's 4 times what I first paid in 1986, okay? But I'm willing to do it and live here. But this can't continue. The disunity on this board is disgusting. I've been involved in state government all my professional life, okay? And that's bad there. It's worse here. You've got to come together, folks, as a town, as town leadership, and take the bull by the horn. And frankly, if you have to just limit it to a smaller area, take that $3,000 and use it. We've got to get off our duff. I want you to aggressively go after the county. And I know Rob's here, okay, he's hearing all this. And, you know, we were told at a meeting on the 27th of September that the county was going to pay for all tests within a half mile of Algonquin Middle School. That's what Rob.
They're testing right now, and nobody has been billed for anything that the county's tested. They've got 21 more letters out to be testing wells. They're waiting for the results to come back. They've gotten 18 results back from the tests that have already.
Nobody has come to me. Nobody's come to me. Excuse me. Nobody's come to me within a half mile as profiles. Okay, but my point is really the biggest message that's really disturbing, Keith, is you got to bring us together, not separate neighborhoods. That's what you've just done by saying what you said. Well, we can't do it here because what about the rest of town? You know what? If there's a flood on the river and the creek, we're going to be there for the whole town. Okay, I personally would be. So that's what we got to be doing, coming together. This is ridiculous from this end to this end. It's got to stop. We should be doing this, providing some upfront money, and be as aggressive as you can. And you have a lot of allies on this, going after the county and the state. But we'll have public hearings of our own as an advocacy group. And we'll go to the media. We'll have press conferences in front of the governor's office, DEC, and the county office building. If we don't go get what we want. But we've got to do something. Not just say, no, we can't do it, we don't have the money. You got the money. You have the money. You have at least $3,000. Spend it. Thank you.
Well, we haven't had a second on this resolution, so.
I'll make a second. But
Okay.
what I'd want to do is put off actually spending the money to make sure we can be reimbursed. I'm going to second this, but I want to make sure we have some direction as how we're going to do this before we go ahead and do it. But I'm making a second to do it tonight.
All this resolution does say is we're going to test wells. It's not in usable form, sorry.
And I would go with Bob as a director of what we're going to do.
The only caveat I would give you is one, Richie said to me, he's not going to accept our test. All our tests are addressing, as I told you, and I'm a very straight shooter. They measured PFOA and PFOS. 2 things, let me be very specific. 2 people, I won't give you the address, but to show you how this can vary, on Ford Road, the county tested 1, came back fine. 2 doors down, they came in, we tested as PFOAs in it. That's only 1 on Cayuga. You're familiar with it, very familiar with it, right? The one that the county happened to pick came out zero. He did have one of the other unregulated, and Richie Elder talked to that person ticket. That's not an NCL issue, however. Right next door to that individual, he paid for it, and I've got the results here. Right next door. 2.6 PFOS and 3.5 PFOA. The woman said to me, will the DEC handle it? I said, no, because it's not over 10. You know what she did? And you know the person I'm talking about. The woman has arranged at her own expense to put charcoal filters in. This is not pulling together as I see it.
All right, let's go one more, Harold, and then we're moving on.
Just so you know, I had mine tested. I live approximately 3,000, 4,000 feet from here, about 44,500 feet from the school. And it came back with less than 2 for both. And I paid for it. I understand that it takes a chunk of money. And I'm willing to go, but it's going to be at Bob's direction, how we do this. I'll second it. Bob will set it up.
All right. All in favor?
Okay, are we done with discussion?
I just want to ask one question, if I may, Eric, directly of you. You live in the Algonquin Estate neighborhood. Are you eligible for being refunded for a test?
Refunded for a test?
Or paid for the test for your well, according to your law?
I've already paid for my test.
Okay.
So, and I will say one other thing, that this is not unprecedented for the town. The town has in the past paid for well testing. They paid for well testing after Irene for all the folks along the creek. Now, granted, that test is only $40, not $350, but they paid for 100 wells to be tested, and the taxpayers paid for it. Granted, $4,000, not 40, but there's a precedent in this town in helping those who are in a situation that is not of their own cause.
Well, I will go as far as to say is if Bob can come with us with a plan, I would follow that a lot sooner than I would follow let's just test everybody that wants to be tested.
Well, don't we as the town board have the authority to decide what the parameters are? I mean,
And I would like, before I go any further, I would like a better plan put together, and I think Bob is capable of doing that for us. I think he's worked well so far with everyone involved. And Eric, I'm sorry, I just can't support it in this current form. If we want to come back and revisit it with something more poignant in a particular area, and we know exactly how much it's going to cost, that's one thing, but it's just not ready yet. I'm sorry.
We can
Chief,
sit here.
just a comment. This is Rob Bailey's benefit. All of the county tests that came back with PFOA were southeast of the school. First 2 groupings fell in that case. The category that Rob just referred to is the 28 letters that went out, north and west. Now, here's the logic behind that. The one that we don't have anything, north and west, that failed PFOS or PFOA, 0. So maybe that's gonna tell the people that are selecting this science, if you will. But we already know a pretty large area where we have over 50% failure rate. Just doesn't pull together to be one.
Well, listen.
I would like to see this passed tonight with the stipulation Bob sets it up.
No, first off, we don't even know what to tell you. I'm not going to pass a resolution to pay for tests that the county and the state are not recognizing. If I'm going to do it, I want the accurate test, and it's only $100 difference, but this is not ready, guys. We can revisit this, but let's put some more thought into it and do it right. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's just not do it for the sake of making people in an audience happy, because they're not going to be happy when we're done. Let's let Bob sit down, put a plan together, and let's put something together we can all agree on, because we're not going to agree on this.
Also, I guess I'm putting this out as a thought. why aren't we asking the county specifically? This month, how many are you gonna test? Next month, what is the plan for the next 6 months? I don't want to be here, none of us want to be here a year from now and find we've tested all over, maybe 50. I don't think that's good enough. So I'd like to know from the county, probably, what they're gonna do month by month, and then I'd like to see the county publish that information.
Well, when you get that information, Bob, and you can put something together here for us, I'd be more than happy to entertain it, but this in this particular form doesn't have my support.
There are some inaccuracies too. It's not like you're gonna get tested back any. I said there are errors in this also. It's not that we have
can't
been.
hear you. I'm sorry, but we cannot hear you.
There are errors in this also. It's not that we have been assured that we will be reimbursed. It's not like that the tests are going to be any quicker just because the town's submitting them instead of the county. And the figure that's being quoted for the $400,000 is inaccurate. So it does need to be restructured.
All right, we're done. Let's take a vote. Go ahead.
Councilman Butler?
No.
Councilman Haas?
No.
Councilman Van Dyke?
Yes.
Councilman Oliver?
Yes.
Supervisor Henry?
No. All right. Resolution to accept a contract from Hudson Mohawk Humane Society. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, did everybody get a chance to review the library agreement?
I mean.
Approval of the library agreement. The only change in here is the amount of time in which the library has used of the land. It went from, I believe, 10 to 20, so that they could apply for grants, and that's basically the only change. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the library's agreement.
I'll second it.
All in favor? I need an approval for the preliminary 2022 budget.
I'll move.
I have a quick question.
All right, hold on, go ahead.
Quick question. I was not in front of my computer this afternoon, so maybe I got an email that I haven't seen, but I asked for some documentation. Have we gotten that in?
Are you talking about a W-2?
Yeah.
It is illegal for us to send you somebody's W-2.
W-2s are confidential under federal law.
I reached out to the Association of Towns this morning on this question. And their advice to me is that you're saying it's under federal law. They're saying that if, unless the town has a policy that it's not available. I'll read this to you once I get the sentence here. If your town has a policy in place outlining a procedure or guidelines for officials that follow when they need information and document, if the town does not have an existing policy, the Committee on Open Government says that it is clear that the records are requested in the furtherance of one's official duties, which would be in this case me asking for this document. The request is reasonable and there's no policy stating otherwise. A town official should generally not be required to submit a FOIL for this type of request. So the Association of Towns does not agree with that statement.
Wait, there is a social security number on somebody's W-2 form. It is.
I don't even see it.
Listen. Yep, go ahead.
I was asked by Tiffany this afternoon to look into this matter. Tax code 6013 precludes release of these documents. These are confidential personnel files. What you're talking about is a general public officers law FOIL request. You can't FOIL people's personnel records. And there can be no town policy to disclose it. There's social security numbers, there's people that claim certain numbers of exemptions. There's confidential information there, it can't be released. Now, I didn't make it up, it's the federal government. So you got there from the Association of Towns, it's irrelevant.
So when I wrote the lawyer at the Association of Towns this morning at 8:24, can a town board member have access to the W-2 of a town employee? We have a question in regards to the salary over the past few years. That's what the person wrote back. First thing is that to do is to see if your town has a policy in place outlining procedure or guidelines for officials to follow when they need information/documents. If the town has not instituted a policy, the Committee on Open Government says that if it is clear that the records are requested in the furtherance of one's official duties, the request is reasonable, and there is no policy in place stating otherwise. A town official should generally not then be required to FOIL a request for this information. However, an individual town board member acting on his or her own, in parentheses, that is without the consent or approval of the majority of the board, on matters that do not involve executing his or her official duties, has the same rights to information as those afforded to the public. Therefore, a council member should be treated the same as a member of the public, and having a town board member file that FOIL request. So what they're saying is that this would be FOILable for the residents, and that because any number of us who have this request in an official duty do not have to sign a FOIL request.
Well, I don't believe that people's W-2 forms, whether it's from the public or from a town official, that we have a right to give people's private information and their social security number to anybody.
I agree with that.
Well,
You can
then,
black out the social security.
and who's going to decide what gets blacked out and what doesn't get blacked out?
Just black out the social security number.
But wait, why are we even having this discussion? It's an elected position. The
Right.
salary goes along with the position. It'd be like saying, like, that whoever comes after Sue, because Sue had been here for so long, they don't get the same salary.
No.
It'd be like the same as Como and Hochul. So
No,
Como was in there forever and Hochul doesn't get the same salary.
No, I
It's a
understand.
salary position. It's
No.
an elected.
I don't want to cut you off, John. I understand. It has nothing to do with the person at all. It has nothing to do with the position at all. But
What does it have to do with that?
I'll tell you, when we met for the first budget hearing, this was brought up. When we met last week, it was brought up again. And Keith said that based on overtime, the salaries were about the same. And that because there was so much overtime in the last year, the salary was about the same. That's what Keith said.
That's exactly what I said.
Thank you. Later in that meeting, Tiffany said, well, in discussing something else, that this employee had not worked a lot of overtime this year. And so I asked for a list of the past few years and just wanted to understand which is it? Did this position work a lot of overtime or not work a lot of overtime? And when that information was given to me, the number that came out is higher than the number we have on paper. So if we are, I don't want to underpay anybody either. So based on the information that was given to me, this person's going to make more this year than they would than they will next year. So if that's the case, we have to right size it the other way. Now, in order just to not make it confusing, because the information I got was basically just typed out, it wasn't in a form. I just said, can you just show me the W-2 so we can know what we're talking, apples to apples? I'm not here to broadcast anybody's W-2s. The fact of the matter is, we can look up on see-through.com and see-through-new-york.com, and we know whatever public employee makes. That's not my point. My point is, was there extra overtime this year or not extra overtime this year? And are we paying him less than he should be getting paid? So a W-2 would show us that. I don't understand why elected officials.
Hold on.
I don't understand why an elected official who has the, hold on a second, I don't understand why an
All right,
elected
hang on a second.
official
Hang on. Let
who
me
has
finish.
access to a budget can't see exactly what we're talking about, that's all. I mean, I'm trying to compare apples to apples. If we should be paying more money, then we should be paying more money.
Whether it's more or less, it's the elected position salary, okay? What you're saying is we should adjust the salary, what, 10 days before an election of somebody that, how do you know would even run for the office if you cut the salary? Maybe you wouldn't want it, because if you're gonna do that, you can't wait till 10 days before an election and decide, okay, we're gonna change the salary.
I don't want to cut a salary. I want to increase the salary because I think we're underpaying.
Can I speak on my salary?
Go ahead.
For like 15 minutes. I didn't ask for an increase on the salary like most of the town officials did. 64,500 is a fair salary, in my opinion, for highway superintendent. I've been deputy for the past 3 years. Tiffany sent you my past 3 years of what I made. So yes, I made overtime. Highway superintendent does not make overtime. I would probably be getting a $4,000 to $5,000 raise to take on all this stuff, sitting here enjoying my night, instead of being with my kids, to do highway superintendent salary. I thought that was more than fair, so I didn't ask for an increase. I'm not trying to be greedy. You're not overpaying me, you're not underpaying me, but yet a week later from the last budget meeting, you're still attacking my salary, trying to figure out. You have all the information given to you. And now we have to argue in front of the public.
No one's, all I'm saying is that we're getting two different stories, that's all. And I just want to know which one is which.
Let's go with his decision and move on.
And why can't we just show apples to apples? That's all. I mean, if we should pay him more, we should pay him more.
You've seen 3 years of his salary. This is the salary he is willing to take. Unless you have a suggestion to change it 10 days before election, I say leave it the way it is. He's happy. I'm happy. The rest of the board's happy.
Maybe we should be paying him more.
Maybe, but that's not what he requested. All right, let's move on to reports. Oh, wait, did we adopt that?
No.
All right, can we have a roll call on that?
Yes.
Councilman Butler.
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Thomas. Councilman Van Slyke.
Yes.
Councilman Oliver.
Yes.
Supervisor Hall.
Yes. All right, we'll get on to the supervisor's report. My report is I've spent an enormous time talking to different people about PFOAs and about subdivisions in this town. I've gone door to door quite a bit, and I've heard from probably 80% of the town residents. I'd like to thank Tiffany for all her work on this budget. I'd like to thank the department heads for their work. I'd like to remind people that after this public hearing, that what is in this budget is necessarily permanent, that there's still room for working on this. I know not everyone's happy with what's in here, but I will tell you that it is a work in progress, and please be patient.
$10,453.40. Of that amount, $3,911.72 was paid over to the supervisor.
Do I have a motion to accept the report?
moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sue. Assessors report, we have our written report. Does anyone have any questions about it? Water managers report, we have his written report. Bob, is there anything you'd like to add? Please make it brief.
Very briefly. In terms of the increased volume, we've got 17 new requests for service. People, because of the PFOA, they realize the town's water is safe and they hook up. So that's good news. As a point of information, I got a call from Rich this morning after the road. He was listening to a particular news station this morning, and the news station said, hopefully build town water. is contaminated. I called the station. I was assured they were gonna get it off the air. At noon, I got another call, still wasn't off the air. I called Eric for his contact to finally get it off the air. When I saw it later in the afternoon, it was, okay. Bottom line, all of our tests and the water are effective. And this water is in great shape, no problem with the 811. I do want to alert you, not a problem, but it's an operational mode, it's very important. So on page 8 of our report, potential problems occurred. We've had 2 problems, that one on September 22nd and one about a week and a half ago. Different problems, but when Troy or Brunswick, and we've got a great cooperative working relationship, don't misunderstand. But when they have a problem, I've got to immediately turn down our water. Otherwise, we will intake, sorry. Otherwise, they'll take the garbage into our system. So by turning it right off, it isolates us. In each case, we're about 48 hours before I put them back on. We are, because of our system, we're gravity fed from the tank on Eagle Road, and nobody lost any pressure as a result of that during that period. The residents don't even know about it. So it's just another added benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Bob, real quick, did you say that there were 17 new members that want to go into the district?
17 new residents. I counted them today.
That
they want to hook
Five of
up.
those alone
Gotcha.
are in on Fox End Drive and up in the Quail Meadows.
They're already in the district. They're just.
No, that's
wanna
what I
hook up.
thought. I just didn't hear you right. Okay. No, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Building inspectors report. Tracy, we have your written report. Is there anything you want to add? Thank you. Dog control officer, I don't believe he's here. Otherwise, I think we probably would have ran. Highway report, DJ. All right. We have no budget transfers. We have had our forensic accountant come in and update our accounting, and she will have some changes for us. So at this particular time, I don't want to transfer anything until we have everything finalized. This brings us back to our public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on something that they didn't get to comment on, or say something that hasn't already been said? Yes, sir, please.
I have a question. Like the approval for the test well and stuff like that, and you needed more information. How much advance notice do you know what's going to be on the agenda?
Well, it's varied for the last few months because my secretary had a stroke, so it's been harder to put stuff together.
Did you just see this before you came in?
No, I saw it several days ago, but it did get some changes to it just before the meeting.
Okay, so you didn't, what blows my mind is that this has to be printed in advance. The board has to see what's going to be on the agenda. If there's stuff that you don't like on the agenda, why didn't you start with trying to do the changes now? I mean, you have plenty of time.
I try not to tell any council person they can't put something on the agenda. They're all elected.
You have questions, the man is there, you know who he is. You can say, this is not clarified. Can you clarify this more? It's not that hard. It's a communication. I mean, it's just simple talking. A gentleman here said, you guys got to start working together. I mean, you can call, you can talk, you can discuss. Hey, you can even be polite about it. If you have questions, ask the questions. Try to get this done before you come to a board meeting. Now it's shelved for another one. Then you go talk to him, he doesn't like what you put on. Then it goes another month, then it goes another month. People have to start communicating. You have to start working together. And this is a public thing. And before, when I said, I lived here in Poestenkill, I said, I don't need to have my water tested. People, the whole town doesn't need their water tested. The areas that are affected, they should be. If it's south of the school, pay for it south of the school. If it's not north of the school, like the testing's doing, don't do the north of the test. You put it in, oh, everybody needs to test it. That's not what the people are saying. The people
people are saying close to the area where it's tested positive, you should endorse them. Like I said, I live over here at Snyder's Corners Road. I don't need to get tested. Let's be smart about it. Let's communicate with each other on the board, figure out what you want done. Figure it out before you come to these stupid meetings and figure out what you want done. Work together. Hey, it's called working smarter, not harder.
Well, we have workshops and this was never brought to a workshop, so that's probably why it wasn't discussed.
If I may, Pete, you can clearly see tonight that people are on the verge of panic. They want to know what's going on. You can see tonight in tonight's meeting, people's feelings and panic that they need to be reassured that their water is safe to drink. I know my answer. I know my water is not safe to drink. Other people need to know. You know, we're all here together. Let's work together. Let's come up with the wording to say, you know, even if the tests aren't scientifically sampled, the homeowner knows that their water at that moment in time is safe to drink. That keeps our public and our people and our friends and our family reassured to feel good that their water is safe for them. You know, not everybody can spare $350. People on a fixed income, that kind of thing. There's plenty of neighbors. They need to know that their water, whether or not it comes in a scientific fashion with chain of custody and 29 things, they want to know that is my home impacted. We need to work together, come up with a resolution to help our neighbors. That's the point tonight. You can see everyone's frustration tonight, their fear. Everyone has a fear that PFAS chemicals are covert. It's not like petroleum. It's not like when you have a petroleum spill, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can feel it, you know it's there. PFAS chemicals are very covert. You don't know they're there until it's too late. Like ignorance is bliss until it's not, and then you're in a panic mode. So we need to reassure our neighbors and our friends and our family members that the water they're drinking, that the water in the garden for, that we're feeding the kids in school is safe to drink. And if it costs us a few bucks, fine, I'm okay with that. We all pitch in to help out our neighbors. That's what Poestenkill is about. Poestenkill is Farm First Community. We help our neighbors. That's what we need to do. So if we need to nail that down a little bit tighter, we need to do that. But our friends and family need our support to tell them, so they're reassured that what they're drinking is safe. Thank you very much.
I think you see there's a consensus on this board to turn it to Bob to put together a targeted plan. This particular resolution tonight, I don't think did that. So.
Can I say one thing? I just want to mention what the gentleman in the back said. I emailed the town board 2 weeks ago and told them that I was going to put together a resolution to do just this. And I submitted that resolution a week ago today. So, you know, I just want you to understand that.
I understand. I lived in East Greenwood when they started jamming this, through here, and the people got enough work. They voted all those people that stuck around, and it was Democrats and Republicans trying to shove a casino down our throats. This is a water issue. It's just people sick, people got cancer and Hoosick Falls and stuff like this. This is something that we can't drop, and I'm not saying rush it either. And be smart about the testing. But you guys go, well, I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, it just blows my mind. There's been meetings for months about this at the VFW Post. It was brought up, 3 weeks ago, that it was going to be brought up to the town board because you had to move it here because the town hall wasn't big enough. So you can't say you didn't know what was going on. You do. Start working together. Start communicating. I mean, I've seen stuff in this where, like the ambulance corps thing, where
One side said one thing, one said another. You guys don't work together. You have to start working together. This is a health issue. And here's the other thing, if you don't solve the problem, you don't work together. People's values of their homes go down because their wells are contaminated, they can't sell their homes. I mean, how I think of it, on a lower level here, at the Republican, Democrats, it doesn't matter at this level, at town level. We are a group, we're here, we know each other. Start working together, start communicating, and come up with a good plan. I mean, it's not that hard. Start communicating.
All right, sir. Dominic?
Yeah, so just a few comments about a few things. I thought I used to miss this. I don't. But here we are 10 months into this. And from the beginning, what I've seen is the county as a whole have a total lack of leadership on this issue. The gentleman mentioned you're sitting on an $18 million surplus. And what the heck does it take to put a plan together? Share that plan with the public, even if you have to change the plan. But that's one of the problems. We've got state help and we've got county help with no plan, or at least no plan that they're sharing with anybody out here, which is why people are so emotional with this issue, because it doesn't seem like there's any leadership. We don't have Rich Elder coming in here saying, this is what we're gonna do, and if this, then this, if this, then this, if this. It's nothing. I hate to say it's not rocket science, but they're supposed to be the health professionals, and they're supposed to give us comfort. Rich Elder said, my main concern is public health and protecting people's drinking water. Well, you can't protect people's drinking water if you don't know the source. And the EPA has said in all their guidance, the first thing you have to do is find the source. Now, the reality is in this town, probably 90% of us are on private wells. And the reality of that is none, with the exception of how many, 28, get tested for what's in that well. And this is, you know, you always hear the analogy of the iceberg. This is it. People are, and county government is looking at this and they're seeing that tip of the iceberg and they're saying, oh, this is not a widespread problem. And I'll make a specific suggestion to the town board in our code. And let's be out in front of the rest of the nation and insist when a new home goes in with a new well, that that well gets tested for the full complement of EPA, what is it? Contaminant. In EPA contaminants. It's, you know, it's, I don't care if it's $1,000 to test for that. If you're buying a house for $350,000, you want to know that well is clean and you have potable water for at least the foreseeable future. But look, I go back to the county, I'll bash them and I'll bash them again. They got to show some leadership here. And it's not an individual legislator. I'm not picking on Robin. I know Robin lives here. So he's probably more concerned than anybody else about what's going on. But I look at Rich Elder and I look at the top of the food chain in the county. Kick somebody in the butt and get this done. Because this is not something that we can live with for any time. Personally, I don't care what's in my well. I'm going to put a carbon filter on my house and I'm going to put my mind at ease. Particularly service. This just shouldn't happen this way. So that's a comment. Now I got a couple of comments that have nothing to do with this. One, dog control officer has come up in the past. If you change from dog control to animal control, it's a civil service issue. You have to do some research with the county civil service department before you make that change. But it has come up before that the dog control officer can't enforce the full complement of issues that are involved with ag and markets. So take a look at that before you leave. But it is doable, but there's a whole kind of chain of things you gotta do with it. As far as how the meetings are recorded. Zoom's a decent product. There's better products out there. I know because I use one every month that I have 35 board members on a conference call that we record, and we should share the recording with everybody. You can download it and you can put it someplace. It's called GoToMeeting. So, and I don't work from them, so, but you should look at those things. And I do appreciate the board's active. And the other thing I just want to put up. The board is made up of 5 individuals. They're not going to agree all the time. They're not going to disagree all the time. But they're going to have a difference of perception in how issues should be addressed. And sometimes we all kind of get emotional about that. And should we? No, we should. But hey, listen, I'm pretty emotional about the PFOAs or S's. And I think that's what you see reflected in the board. New state law, 24 hours before a town board meeting, all records have to be public. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Fair question. The county is dragging their feet so much, and the state is dragging their feet so much, and the town isn't responsible for those. Is there such a thing as the town can sue the county and the state?
I don't
Can we
know.
pursue that issue?
No, I never even thought of it, honestly. I don't know, maybe Jack can tell us.
No, you can't sue this thing. The only thing you can do is bring a writ of mandamus, if that's where there's a clear failure to perform an act that's required by law. So here, there's a lot of discretionary acts. State has discretion whether it's going to come in tests or pay for the test or whatever. The county has discretion whether or not it's going to do it. You can't compel a discretionary act. You can only compel the performance of a duty that's imposed by law.
Can I?
Go ahead, Harold.
I talked to Rich Elder approximately a month ago, and I really thought things were going to go along. So it was like sit back and wait. That didn't work. But you ask them to do what's going to happen, they explain it to you, and you got to give them a chance to do it. I'm disappointed it hasn't happened. To this point, the point that I always had a carbon filter on my well, because I don't know what's in there besides PFOAs. I just think it should be part of a home. I just think it should be mandatory.
Approximately how expensive it is to put a carbon filter system in your home with your well?
Pardon?
Does anyone know the approximate cost?
About $100.
How much?
Between $100 and $200.
The
filters are expensive. You have to change the filters. Carbon filters are a double-edged sword. Activated carbon has parking spaces that collect contaminants. When those parking spaces, think of activated carbon as a parking garage. When those parking spaces are full, it starts to unload it. So you either have to know what your influent, your effluent levels are, so you can change it regularly, right? Because you can't just put a carbon filter on it. You could end up harming yourself by, when those parking spaces start emptying themselves out, the water coming out of your carbon filter is more contaminated than water going in. So carbon filters, it sounds great, but it's a double-edged sword. You've got to be very careful about that. You know, that's why when the state's coming in, putting GAC units in gas or granulated activated carbon, when they put GAC units into these homes, they're monitored. They come every 3 months, they test it, they test the water going in, they test the water going out, and they have them in series. There's a primary unit and a secondary unit. So if something gets through the primary unit, then they catch it in the secondary unit. So it's a system that you gotta maintain. You can't put it in and forget it. You can't change it every 3 months. You gotta have a parallel.
Say they cost to put in.
You can buy them for like $100, right? You have to put in filters every 3 years, 6 months. But you can find them on Amazon. There's even a
And and that's the system the county is putting in.
I don't know what the county's going, I'm shocked because I wasn't.
Okay. I was just wondering if they're the same systems that are going into homes that are more than above the 10 points per radius.
Yes.
Keith, is the town looking into cost of expanding the water system up to Algonquin Estates and everything?
We've talked about it as a board a number of times. I really was hoping that the school would help us by helping us bring the water district at least that far, and it would be much cheaper for the town if the school got involved, because there's approximately $400 million in state funding for water right now. So if you file for a grant, chances are you'll get it. The problem the town has is we don't know where to go with the district until we know exactly where the biggest problem is and how many houses we have to serve. We can't even apply for a grant yet. And it's not that we don't want to expand the water district. We do, but we don't know where to expand it to. And we don't know how to apply for a grant until we know where we're going with it. I've talked to Bob about out-of-district users. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but it'd be about $1.5 million to move it to Algonquin on our own. And, you know, I shouldn't say this publicly, but there's pollution in Miller Hill School as well, not PFOA, but you can't drink the water down there for Cumberland Farms or that school.
I don't think we ought to be worried about Sand Lake. I think
Well, I'm just saying the school district has 2 problem schools, and, you know, it would behoove the school to consider hooking into our water district now rather than later. And if they did it, we could partner with them. But yeah, we've talked about it. And, you know, if it comes to a point where there's enough homes that we have to do that for, we did it before, we'll do it again.
Have you talked to the school district?
Yes, yep,
Partnering?
no, yep, yep. They're very content right now with the filters.
Clear, the school district is the business of educating our children. And we also are funded through taxes. So if you want to put it, so the school district is taking care of their building by putting in a carbon filtration. Would we hook the school district on the board? And the school district is definitely putting in the carbon system as an interim measure. When the line of municipal water is brought by, we are absolutely going to hook up.
Quick point of information, if this was to happen, if you to resolve those questions about where, how long would that take? To bring the water up to Algonquin, and let's just say for argument's sake, a half a mile around it. What?
Let me share with you. The 2 locations that we would extend from are one from 66 and Schneider Corner Road, and after the school, 1.3 miles. Or Weatherwax at 66, and once again, that's 1.3 miles. As Keith said, what I did,
is right there.
What I did 2 weekends was to take each of those routes at the elevation levels, so that I could convert to what the pressure would be, because I knew what the pressure was of water pressure at, for example, 98 PSI at Snyder's Corner at 66. Then I can calculate what would be in the school. It is feasible, yes. 2.5 is a reasonable good guess.
66 and Weatherwax is 500 feet from.
No, you're talking about the middle section of weather. Yeah.
And Weatherwax. But you have to pick up our line. Our line doesn't go to that intersection right now.
Okay.
So early. 1.3 miles.
It goes to the second section of Weatherwax, not all the way to the end of Weatherwax. It stops at Senator's Corners Road in Weatherwax.
Okay. You may have just said by mistake, 66 and Weatherwax. I just wanted to, okay. That's all right. So Snyder's Corners Road and Weatherwax is where you.
Just a little information at this point, this PDD.
Yes, but not 66 and Weatherwax.
Hold on, wait.
Snyder's Corner Road. And Weatherwax comes up and then turns on Snyder's Corner Road. So from that intersection, 260 to the school, 1.3. Once again, either way.
All right, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
So this PDD for
White Church meeting. So is that gonna be part of the board meeting next month, or is that a separate meeting by itself? Public hearing.
It's gonna be just like tonight's budget meeting. It'll be at the first part of our agenda. And then people have an opportunity to speak on it then.
Oh, the other half, I wanted to ask you, so everybody that's touching that property, are they contacted?
Yes, by mail. Yes.
By mail?
Yep. And it's also be in the paper.
Which paper, the penny saver?
It'll be in that and probably the Times Union as well. Yeah, like that's a penny saver. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So I kind of appreciate the gambit spotting tonight of one side and the other here. And I actually appreciate both sides. I can understand kind of steadfast, and I can also appreciate arguing with, the norm. I'd like to think of you guys all as us, and like I said, it's very appreciated, but you don't necessarily need the recording contract that you have there. But I think everyone on board today, I originally came up and said I wasn't up to speed. I feel like I'm at the same spot with all the information provided tonight, except for this gentleman. He seemed to have the majority of it. There was an issue brought up about $350 test, maybe not being up to state standards. I wouldn't expect anyone to produce it now, but in a couple of weeks, would you guys be able to produce whatever the cost of the test, one that's accepted to the state, and then would be put on their map to say, hey, someone has enough money to, they pay for their own test. So these people are not paying $350. If you can't afford it, it's unfortunate. But if you can and you want to, have you guys considered producing the resources for that test so that it can be done?
I wouldn't support a test being paid for by the town that wasn't.
Not by the town, I see the
I wouldn't, well, the individual can go to and get a different test than what they're currently getting. I wouldn't, as a town councilman, support a test that didn't test for everything. It just seems to me like it's a waste.
Registered with the state as well. If I was to pay, I would like it to also contribute to this one for the source, what my level is, so. Because antecedent data, he is collecting his own map, which is very helpful, but if the state doesn't end up recognizing it because the majority of them, he has the county.
That's $500.
And is that exact test posted somewhere on the town website that we can access? So that we get our properties registered if we pay the $500 individually?
Not at this current time.
Right, because I think that's the other half of the worry is, whether that $350 one is or not, say I decide to pay more, I would like the proper one. I would like to know where to go, whatever the cost be.
Would the county have that information?
So
Yes.
could we have that information posted?
The county has it, but I'm sure Bob can get you that information probably by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay, would it be publicly posted though?
Well, it'll be on our website, and at some point, if you wanted, we could probably put it in the advertiser. But let's give Bob an opportunity to do what he does and then go from there.
Understood. I just think, once you guys find something out where an individual can contribute, we would like to, because obviously there are some nervous people here. And I just suggest that we do that as well.
All right, I'll entertain an adjournment.
No.
I'll have to pay the bills, that's all.
There are a number of comments that came in remotely. I was just gonna ask if we can, if I can collect those, we provide those to Sue to be.
Yes, thank you. All right, go ahead,
Move
Dave.
that we pay the town and highway bills of $128,960.46.
All in favor?
Aye. I move that we pay water bills of $1,563.30. $1,563.30 for the water bill.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna adjourn our regular portion of the meeting. We do have some executive session issues to speak about with our attorney. We will be taking no further action after the executive session. So I'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is too much.
There we are. How you doing, Ms. Kitchen?
Yeah, we just made a motion.